We got some news on a potential new career that she's got going on. This is where I need the Steve Harvey, what she's got going on.
The WNBA was shaken to its core when news broke that Brittney Griner, one of the most recognizable faces in women's basketball, has officially retired. This wasn't just a typical farewell, where an athlete thanks her teammates, coaches, family, and fans for years of support. No, this was a bombshell, an abrupt decision dropped in the middle of controversy, drama, and decline. Fans scrolling through their feeds couldn't believe what they were reading. A player once considered the future of the league, a player who was supposed to represent the modern era of dominance, walking away not with a celebration, but with a cloud of negativity hanging overhead. And make no mistake, this wasn't just any retirement. This was Brittney Griner, detonating a narrative that will echo through the WNBA for years to come. Her exit was not graceful, not sentimental, but ugly and chaotic. Why? Because her final season was overshadowed by one of the most talked about and controversial incidents in WNBA history, her assault on Caitlin Clark. That moment didn't just stain her season, it rewrote her entire legacy. Let's break down why this matters and how we got here. The foul on Clark wasn't just a hard basketball play. It was an eruption of frustration, the kind of outburst that reveals more than it hides. Everyone has seen physical play in the WNBA. Players body up, get chippy, exchange words. That's part of the game. But this was different. This was a veteran lashing out at the rising superstar who had become the face of the league in just her second year. Caitlin Clark isn't the rookie punching bag anymore. She's the ticket seller, the ratings booster.
You said you didn't remember what you said during that viral moment after you fouled out against the Indiana Fever. A lot of people believe what you said was effing white girl or effing white girls. Mm-hmm. Is it possible that's what you said?
No, would never say that. Like, there's no place for that in our league. Wouldn't say that.
So even though you can't remember, you know that was not what you said?
I know it wasn't that because I wouldn't use that type of language.
The player who has made the WNBA a daily conversation topic. And in one ugly moment, Griner revealed exactly how hard it was for her to accept that. The video of that hit went viral instantly. Within minutes, social media was ablaze. Clips circulated faster than any highlight from the actual game. Fans weren't showing sympathy for Griner. They were furious. Furious that one of the league's longest-standing stars, someone marketed for years as a cornerstone of women's basketball, would target the player carrying the league into mainstream relevance. The outrage wasn't limited to Indiana Fever fans. Neutral observers, even casual sports fans who barely follow the WNBA, took one look and said, "That's dirty." That moment became the headline. Not the box score, not the playoff race, not the outcome of the matchup. Just one image, Brittney Griner taking a cheap shot at Caitlin Clark. And the conversation didn't stop there. After the game, when Griner fouled out against the Fever, cameras and microphones picked up what appeared to be an ugly racial remark. Fans swore they heard her call Clark an effing white girl. When pressed on it later, Griner denied it, claiming she would never use such language, that it didn't reflect her values or belong in the league. But the problem was, she also admitted she couldn't remember exactly what she said in that heated moment. That denial didn't wash with many fans. The clip circulated, lip readers weighed in, and debate raged on. Whether or not she truly said it, the damage was done. The perception stuck. The public viewed her as a veteran who not only took a cheap shot at the league's brightest star, but also possibly crossed a line of racial hostility in doing so. And then, just weeks later, came the retirement announcement. Coincidence? Hardly. This wasn't a graceful exit with accolades and flowers. This was a player reading the room, realizing her reputation had taken a permanent hit, and deciding to walk away before things got uglier. No matter how many dunks Griner had in her career, no matter how many all-star selections, no matter how much she meant to Phoenix and to the WNBA brand in her prime, the last memory most fans will carry of her is that assault on Caitlin Clark. That's brutal. That's legacy altering. And to understand why it ended this way, You have to rewind and look at Griner's career arc. For a long time, she was marketed as untouchable, the player who could dunk when nobody else could, the centerpiece of the Phoenix Mercury alongside Diana Taurasi, a unicorn with size, mobility, and skills. She wasn't just a star, she was the poster child for what women's basketball could be. But then the cracks began to appear. Her game slowed down. Younger players entered the league with more stamina, sharper shooting, and better conditioning. The WNBA evolved into a faster, more perimeter-oriented game. And Griner didn't adapt. She was no longer the dominant force. She became just another big in the rotation. That's not an insult. It's still respectable. But for someone who had been positioned as the face of the league, the fall from superstar to role player was jarring. And when Caitlin Clark entered the league, everything accelerated. Clark wasn't just another talented player, so now we turn to the aftermath, the fallout, and what this all really means for the WNBA going forward. Because Brittney Griner's retirement doesn't just mark the end of her career, it marks the official passing of an era. Think about it. For over a decade, the league leaned heavily on names like Griner, Taurasi, and a handful of other stars to carry the brand. Griner was marketed as the future. She was the dunker, the rim protector, the presence in the paint who could do things no other woman could. ESPN, Nike, and the WNBA itself invested years into pushing her as the face of the game, and for a while, it worked. But nothing lasts forever. Time catches up with every athlete, and the WNBA has been moving faster than ever. New stars are arriving, who not only bring talent, but also bring eyeballs. And in Caitlin Clark, the league found its first true mainstream megastar. That's why Griner's exit is so dramatic, because it doesn't feel like she chose the ending. It feels like the ending was chosen for her by circumstance, by decline, and by Clark's rise. Let's examine the sequence. Griner left Phoenix, signed a one-year deal in Atlanta, and for the first time looked less like a dominant force and more like a veteran name playing out her contract. She averaged 9 points, 5 rebounds, and maybe a block here and there. Not terrible, but not star numbers either. And when the playoffs came, she was benched in crunch time. Imagine that. Brittney Griner, the former franchise centerpiece, riding the bench when it mattered most. That wasn't just humbling, that was humiliating. By the time the incident with Caitlin Clark happened, the storm clouds had already gathered. Declining performance, shrinking role, reduced relevance, and then Clark shows up and shines brighter than ever. That was the breaking point. That's why the hit on Clark wasn't just another foul. It was the explosion of all that built-up frustration. And the aftermath made it clear there was no coming back from it. The league wasn't going to celebrate her anymore. Fans weren't going to forgive and forget. Every mention of her name would drag the incident back into the spotlight. Retirement wasn't an option. It was the only option. But here's the twist. Retirement doesn't reset the narrative, it locks it in. Griner thought she was closing the book on her own terms, but what she really did was cement the last chapter as the defining one. And in that chapter, she's not the hero, she's the villain. Meanwhile, Caitlin Clark keeps moving forward. She's bigger than ever, proving every day that she's not just hype, but substance. She's hitting logo threes, racking up assists, leading her team, and transforming the Fever from an afterthought into a must-watch. And every time Clark succeeds, the contrast with Griner grows sharper. One player thriving, the other collapsing. One player shining, the other fading. That's why fans aren't mourning Griner's exit. They're celebrating Clark's rise. For Indiana Fever fans, this feels like poetic justice. The player who tried to take down their star is gone, while their star continues to ascend. It's not just a win, it's vindication. And for the WNBA as a whole, it's addition by subtraction. The league is trying to grow its brand, expand into new markets like Portland and Toronto, and push into mainstream sports coverage. The last thing it needs is veteran stars embroiled in controversy, throwing cheap shots at the very player who is making the league relevant. Removing that baggage clears the runway for a new era, and make no mistake, that era belongs to Caitlin Clark, Aaliyah Boston, and the Fever's young core. They are the faces the WNBA wants to build around. They are marketable, relatable, and magnetic. Fans are tuning in for them. Media outlets are covering them. And every step of the way, Clark is proving that the league is in good hands. Griner's exit just accelerates that transition. But here's where it gets even more fascinating. Normally, when a star retires, social media explodes with tributes. Coaches, teammates, even rivals send out heartfelt posts. Congrats on a legendary career. Thanks for inspiring us all. But when Griner announced her retirement, the silence was deafening. Sure, a few obligatory posts appeared. But the overwhelming online conversation wasn't about celebrating her career. It was about Clark. That silence tells the whole story. The league isn't focused on Griner leaving. It's focused on Clark staying, surviving, and thriving. And that says more than any highlight reel ever could. Now let's talk about what's next for Griner. She's hinted at Twitch streaming, maybe entering the world of gaming and online entertainment. That's fine. Athletes have made the jump before. Some succeed, some don't. But let's be real, this isn't some carefully planned career pivot. This is damage control.
Brittney Griner was caught on tape during a game with the Indiana Fever, dropping racial slurs against Caitlin Clark, and pretty obviously doing so. And it doesn't take a lot of genius to lip read Brittney Griner, whose voice, by the way, is about as low as mine is, calling her trash and an effing white girl. Now, of course, if Caitlin Clark had ever suggested the same in reverse, using black as opposed to white in that sentence, that'd be the end of her WNBA career. But Brittney Griner is going strong. It's totally fine.